dancing along. It's another Sunday afternoon, talk about some real estate stuff. And I know you've seen the headlines going all across the United States saying there is drastic home prices. I mean, huge slashes of home prices across the United States, including my area of Baton Rouge. I have a special guest. His name is Chris Igo. He is out of the South Florida market, and he's going to be my special guest. We're going to be talking to him because one of the places that in the article I'm going to be discussing says that South Florida is taking a massive hit. And they also said Baton Rouge was taking a massive hit. And that is my real estate market. So we're going to be breaking down what the actual headlines mean. And if this is just like, is this the beginning? Is this the beginning of the end? Or are we going to finally see the collapse that everybody's hoping for? I know that not sellers. I know the sellers are not hoping for it, but I know a lot of you people that are buyers and that you've been waiting all this time for home prices to be at a more reasonable level. Is this finally your sign that the market is finally tumbling into the ocean and you can get yourself a deal? So Chris, come on up here. There he is. Yay! Everybody give him a round of applause. Hello, Chris. Yay. I've never had you on before.
No,
but I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here, and this is going to be great.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself really quick before we dump into this article. I was saying dive and dump at the same time.
Dive
Sorry.
and dump. We're gonna dive, dump, shift, and pivot wherever we gotta go.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but so thank you. I'm Chris Igo, and I service the South Florida region, specifically Palm Beach County and Broward. And it's a massive, I think there are 90,000 agents, realtors that are in those two counties. So it's pretty intense, but I'm seeing the same kind of news that you are out there in terms of headlines and slashing values and this, that, and the other thing. I've yet to experience any of that in any of the markets that I service, but it sure is very interesting clickbait.
Well, let's get into it. So one of the articles that prompted me to even make this this particular live stream about this was something that came from the Daily Mail. Granted, it's out of the UK. Take it with a grain of salt. It is the Daily Mail. But there's a lot of people that just read headlines. Eddie, will you go ahead and pull this up really quick? The Daily Mail says, is the housing boom about to bust? Sellers are slashing prices at levels not seen since before the pandemic amid rapidly cooling market, as a hedge fund manager of The Big Short warns it is watching a plane crash. More than 20% of homes in the Philadelphia, Boise, New Orleans, Sacramento had their prices reduced in April. Michael Burry of the short fame compared the slowing market to the 2008, saying it's watching a plane crash. This week, mortgage rates reached a 13-year high of more than 5%. One economist said that prices could drop as much as 40% during the summer of 2020. Wow, that is some big predictions. America's red hot housing market is cooling down fast, sparking fears of housing bust, crippling recession, as nearly half of home prices are slashed in some areas. Half? Okay. After 2 years of buyers battling tens of thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands over asking price to secure homes, as millions fled to the cities in favor of the suburbs during the pandemic, it appears the boom is over. An increase in mortgage rates, rising house prices, uncertainty around Joe Biden's economy, and inflation soars are contributing to the factors of the slowdown, according to the experts. I'm reading it like how it reads.
That's a mouthful.
All right. Weighing in on the market's former hedge fund manager, Michael Burry, the Big Short fame, said is now deleted a tweet from May 24th saying that failing stocks and slowing housing homes remind him of 2008. Burry tweeted it as it said in 2008, it's like watching a plane crash. Okay, here's where I made this thumbnail from, because this is what got me like fired up. It says that Baton Rouge housing market, just from the graph itself, that doesn't explain anything, that 31% down. The prices are down 31%. That is my market. And I'm here to tell you that is horse pucky. That's a lie. That's a lie. But what they're really saying is 31% of the houses that were on the market had taken some sort of price reduction or price change. Because I looked and I was like, how are they even coming up with 31%? So they're even like saying like if there was a price change. So some houses actually increased in price, right? Because I couldn't figure it out. So I was going through my MLS and in the Baton Rouge market, there was a price change, not necessarily a reduction. There was a price change. So even new construction that went up in price, they added that to the factor of this down arrow. It was a price change, not a reduction. I don't know about the New Orleans market. That is not my market, but you were in South Florida. Are you seeing a 32 or 29 or 25% reduction in home prices or price market changes? Are you seeing
No,
anything like
absolutely
this?
not. Nothing even remotely close to that. And I wish that we would see something like that anytime soon, but I don't see any evidence that points to anything even remotely close to that. So if I was to get like hyper granular and just talk about my city in particular, and then drill down into my subdivision, there's been
Mhm.
less than 2 weeks of inventory, meaning homes for sale,
Right.
for months, right? And in the last 7 days, there's been 12 new listings. So we are starting to see more inventory come on the market for
We have
sure.
to. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah, there is. And that's an
that's a
opportunity
real
for
thing.
buyers. That is an
Absolutely.
opportunity for buyers too. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
I agree.
Uh,
But as far as now, if you were, so I don't know, I didn't do the research that you did to come up with where they sourced this information from, but well, I think I mentioned early on, there's 90,000 agents in Palm Beach and Broward County. There's a lot of people who will take a listing and let the sellers price it wherever they want to, as if they were playing the lottery. So if you go take an overpriced listing, which there's lots of people out there, and like some of these 12 that I just talked about in my subdivision, or not my subdivision, but my enclave of homes, which is several different subdivisions that are right next to each other. There's a lot of insane pricing that exists right
well,
now.
it's stupid. It was stupid. It's been stupid for 2 years. I didn't even expect buyers to pay over the amount of money that they were paying cash. Cash. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
I want this house, 35,000 cash. I'm over asking price. I'm like, are you sure? 65,000 over cash. I'm like, what are you doing? Like
yeah,
it made me sweat. Like, why are they
yeah.
doing this? But they wanted the house so bad. There are some markets though I don't think are going to be able to hold their value. Like I don't think of Boise, Idaho as a place that is like a hopping area for industry and moving, like I can see, I don't know if it's definitely going down 40%. I wasn't able to get a hold of an agent in Boise, Idaho, but I did talk to a Utah agent in Ogden, and she said she's still doing offers over asking price. She has not seen price adjustments in her specific area and the clients that she's worked with. She said she would get back to me when she looked through the MLS. I had yet to heard from her. Hopefully I'll get a message back. She hasn't seen a 28% of people dropping their prices, but she said there were plenty of people that overpriced their houses to begin with. So some of them that had their houses at, let's just say, $500,000 when the house was only 400,000 are now willing to get down to reality again. And I think this is what we all needed. Like this was ridiculous. The amount of houses had gone up, and I think the sellers need a little whiplash because some of them were really just nasty about their home prices.
So I'll go backward in time because I used to be a stockbroker, and I think it was Alan Greenspan who used to talk about the irrational exuberance of the market. This is
Hmm.
going back into the early 2000s, and that's what we
Hmm.
see right now with sellers: the irrational exuberance of sellers.
Hmm.
And I've been on lots of listing presentations recently where I've talked to sellers who are like, "We want this number," and I'm like, "Well, why stop there? Why not just add? Well, we have to get X amount of dollars," which doesn't line up with anything that's reality based. And I'm like, well, why go 100,000 over when you can go a million or 10 million over? If we're going to go big, let's just go crazy big.
Hmm.
Um, so that irrational exuberance, I think, is going to be taken out of the market. Those homes are going to get price reductions like we're seeing here. I've got friends in Boise, Idaho that are not, I mean, I think when's the last time I talked to them? Within the last week, they're not experiencing 40% price drops. across the board. There might be some overvalued
What they're saying,
houses that.
40% of the houses are taking a reduction. That's what this chart is. 40% of the homes
Oh,
are
okay.
taking a reduction. But like I said, I don't know. I'm thinking that, like with mine, it was a price change, not a reduction. Because I was like, how are they coming up with this? And it was close to 28% with a price change, but the reduction was nowhere near that. It was like 15% were taking a reduction, and there were homes that were overpriced to begin with. So I'm
Well, that
assuming
might make
that's pretty
sense.
much yeah, I'm assuming that would be this case everywhere. So there are
Yeah.
people that are claiming that there are people that are claiming that we're going to be seeing pre-pandemic levels after the summer is over. Do you think we're going to see pre-pandemic pricing of homes after the summer is over?
No, not at all. I mean, what I expect we're going to see is we'll see more inventory. I think it's going to take, which means a more balanced market, right?
Thank
So if
God.
there was, exactly. So if you're a buyer that's looking to buy, you're not going to have the 30 other buyers that are also looking to buy on that same home. I suspect
Mhm.
with interest rates rising and everything else like that. But I'm hoping it looks like a market where it's, 3, 4, 5 months of inventory. We haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, I got like a good 90 to 120 days of inventory. That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
that would be great.
Especially in the home prices that I would consider like the starter home range, because like in our what we would consider higher end is like 4 to 500,000. That's like, I live in a very small town outside of Baton Rouge, but the like anything below that, it's still just as crazy. You're still getting a lot of offers, and that, to me, I would love to see more homes being able to get negotiate, because most of those first time home buyers, they need closing costs. They need, like, they're wanting to get in the market. They may have like a 5 to 10% down or whatever they would need for their FHA or VA or rural development loan, but they're not able to find a house that they can afford because everybody else is overbidding it. We are fortunate in the fact that we don't have a lot of institutional investors that are buying up these homes, but we still have enough people that have a lot of money. I don't know where all this cash comes from, but they're willing to go over asking price for a smaller home just to win the offer. And that to me is, that's just sad. I want people to be able to get an offer, and I want sellers to be able to work with the buyers, give them a little bit of closing costs to buy their house, and them move on to their next house and get their, the sellers get a good chunk of change so they can move on to their next house, and the buyers are able to start off and buy their own home and have a little bit of closing costs so they're not hit with a big payment. That's what I like.
I would love that to be the case. I really don't see anything that points to that in Broward or Palm Beach County anytime soon. It's just I think we're insulated due to the fact that there's no more land to build on. So we're kind of right
No.
between the Everglades and the ocean, and
Mhm.
everything's been developed or is in the process of being developed. So like the scarcity of land versus supply and demand, I don't see anything that it will be good when there's more inventory, but
Mhm.
because it's Florida and the affluent want to be in this particular region, I don't see any real. I don't see the market going backwards. It may go down to a slower pace of appreciation, but I think that's short of like a nuclear war. I don't I don't see anything.
I look at it like this, and I've been saying this for quite some time. I'm looking at it as like, how we have had affordability crisis, but I think we're looking at a stagnation. Like, I think that the home prices are going to like teeter down a bit, but mostly remain flat for quite some time, especially if interest rates kind of hold where they're at. Right. So,
Yeah.
because of the fact, I don't know if you saw, but a lot of the like home builders are flat out saying, we're not going to build. We're not going to build. Who knows what's going to happen with this housing market? We're going to build for what people can, like, we know we can sell, but we're not going to build anything extra. We're not going to be caught with our pants down like we were in 2008. In some
Mhm.
areas, they still say that they're overbuilding, but I don't like, I don't know. Like, I worry about areas like Phoenix, Arizona, because they're building like crazy. I'm not 100% sure about like, Austin, Texas, but, they have their own little set of issues. I know there's areas in California that are taking reductions right now. Like San Francisco has taken a little bit of reduction, and San Diego has taken a bit of a reduction, but not 40 or 50% like some of these areas. Maybe they've had a price change where they become more realistic to get that home sold fast. But I'm glad that this is kind of coming to an end because it was ridiculous. VCG Construction with a 1999 super chat. Just go with the flow. And you know what? This is true though. In a way, this is go with the flow is true. If you're in the market of buying a house right now and you're like, should I buy now? I mean, is it all going to fall apart tomorrow and everything? I want you to give yourself a pros and cons list. I want you to like put in your pros of buying a house right now, buying a house right now. I wouldn't build a house to save my life from scratch right now. But if there's a brand new house available, then yeah, that would be something I consider. And figure out like, what's your budget? What can you afford if the interest rates go up? Find out, what's the cost between renting and owning. Do you have a nest egg? Have you talked to a financial advisor? Like do all your homework beforehand before you decide to, jump into this market. You don't have FOMO. Don't just get a house because your friends have gotten a house. Like really, really investigate this, but it is an investment into your future. So long story short, with a $2 super chat, Chris, are there many foreign buyers coming into Florida? Do you have like a lot of foreign investors, big investors coming through?
Yeah. So it's funny with the last 2 years have been just insane, right? And we've experienced so much growth just within our own business from investors coming from Europe, coming from South America, and all that coming in. But as far as foreign investors coming in, like institutionally, I don't track that. I don't know. But as far as foreign buyers coming in, yeah, it's and if there's ever any kind of devaluation of our currency, then that's going to be like way different. Those schematics and those numbers are going to change radically. But short answer is, yeah, there's lots of foreign buyers.
Well, I'll just ask it like big investors, like for instance, if you look at the Atlanta market, they've had a 35% increase of big investors, large investors buying up as many homes as possible in that lower price range. Do you know if that's even a thing in your market?
Yeah. So especially like downtown Delray or East Delray, which you probably don't have any context of, but most of that area is non-HOA. Right. And so we see all types of any investor who can go in there and buy and buy something that they can then rent and raise the rents for. That's just getting gobbled up left and right. Yeah.
Rent prices have gone, like even in my area, are stupid high. Like
Yeah.
we have not increased. We should increase our rent. We have not, because our personal expenses has not increased, and that's not part of our business plan to try to drive up the price ridiculously. I know that's a terrible business decision, but that's just morally it feels better to me. Everybody's like suffering as it is. I don't want to tax something else on them. So I have like are rents really high in your area right now too?
Insane. Yeah. So rent values have gone through the roof so I've done a lot of conversations and even content talking about why this time is different than last time in terms of what we could expect to see if, the market changes or whatever. But it used to be when the market crashed, you could go into a rental, you could walk away from your mortgage and get into a rental for less. Nowadays, good luck with that. It's like double or triple. So no, and that's if you find one. There are none. There's no inventory.
During the last crash, my husband and I were looking for an apartment, and they had all sorts of incentives for you to sign for the apartment complex. Like they would give you 1 month free or no deposit. They even had like a raffle for a leased car. I mean, they were doing all sorts of stuff to get those occupancy filled. And in the apartment complex we lived, there was all sorts of vacant occupancy during the last crash. You would think that, all these people were getting out of their house, they would need to find somewhere to live. But I don't know, in Florida, that was like one of those things, like you could file foreclosure, but it took forever for them to actually like foreclose on your home. So you might have a year and a half basically living in a house for free before you actually got kicked out and moved somewhere else. So that wasn't not here so much. Like I noticed it was much faster here in Louisiana than it was in Florida, but we'll see. I don't think this is going to be I just think that we're going to see a big stagnation of the housing market. People will lose if they bought at the height of the market and then they have to move 3 years later. They're going to be paying. They're going to be paying because they're not going to be able to find a buyer that's willing to pay at that top price, and they're not going to have made enough equity unless they put down a good down payment on it. I think it's gonna hurt people. Another 1999 super chat. We're looking to relocate from Philadelphia to Florida. Can you help us with the comps in the Snow White Castle in Orlando? My wife is looking to live her best life. Do you have any Snow White Castles near you, Chris? Do you?
Let me make a few phone calls. I've got a connection up in Orlando with the mouse, so I'm sure I can put a deal together.
Yeah, I mean, and I love Mrs. VCG. She deserves it, and she has to have the perfect shoes because every time I see her, I always I have to see her shoes. She always has the cutest shoes. So you got to find her a good shoe store near there too.
There you go.
All right. There's questions that people get to ask during the stream. So there's going to be some questions that pop up that would be for you and some for me. And we're going to toss them back and forth there, Chris. Eddie, if you wouldn't mind, can you put up a question on the screen for us, please? I saw some come in early on. Yes, he said yes. I heard him. Yeah. Matt Daniels, thank you, Kristina, for your condolences. His dog passed away of nearly 2 decades. Question: are interest rates going to influence home sales or trades? Well, of course they are. I mean, I'll give my answer. Are they going to affect home sales? Yes. Some people that were on the line of what they could afford are now been priced out of the market because of the interest rate. So let's just say they were like, okay, at this 3.75, I can afford a $400,000 houses. There is a few $400,000 houses around here. I'm just going to have to really jump on them. Now the interest rates went up. And so their availability of how much they can afford has gone down, but the prices of homes in the area hasn't gone down. So there's some people that are just kind of in this terrible loophole. So they have to pay more in rent. Oh, I have a big tip. By the way, if you are looking for an affordable rental, this was the hugest tip I've seen. So, and you can't find any because there isn't any rentals in the area, right? So you're going everywhere trying to find this rental. Do you know that the extended stay, right, will charge, so much per month, right? So you could go to the extended stay. Granted, your stuff won't be there, but you could at least stay there for a month, and you get your towels clean. You have a cleaning lady for a month, and you would pay less than you would actually pay for rent in the area. There's a girl in Austin, Texas that did this, and she was saying I can find an apartment. I have 6 weeks, so I'm just going to go ahead and rent out the extended stay for a month until I find something. And if I can't find anything, I'll rent it out for another month. So that is an option if you're having a hard time finding a rental. So until you find one, you could stay at an extended stay. Granted, you're gonna have to put your stuff in storage, but it gives you an option instead of being out on the streets.
That's definitely a win.
Have you heard of that? I would thought that was genius.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. But why up until a few weeks ago, you said that it's not a bubble, it's a new reality. It's not a bubble. There is no bubble. It's gonna stagnation isn't a bubble that's popping. The prices are unsustainably high, I feel like, but we're going to remain flat for a long period of time. Some areas are going to see a price reduction that were overinflated. Some areas are going to remain flat for a long time, and other places are going to continue to go up. You have to keep an eye on your specific market, but this is not a pop. This is not a pop in the bubble. In my opinion, what do you say, Chris?
I agree.
This does not look worse than 2008 either. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I mean, and right now, what I think the bigger bubble that's going to be burst is more like the investor, or not even investor, but the psychology of the market, which is going to get burst. So we started with the slide of the what was it? The price reductions that have happened in all those different cities over the last month or whatever it is. Well, when those numbers come back in Boise and Austin or wherever, and they really are bad numbers, which I don't believe that's what that is. But when you see some of the froth come out of the market, and you do see some of these other markets actually do get I don't want to say decimated, but when you see a 20% reduction in home values or something like that, and I don't even think you're going to see it there, but let's just pretend and say worst case scenario, but you do see a correction. Well, that's when you're going to start to see not a bubble being burst, but I think you're going to start to see a lot of people really be shook psychologically by some of the froth coming out of the market. So I think that will change over time, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
I do not see a crash like 2008.
Not
There's
the
nothing that's possible that could. There's a few factors that people need to understand. The people that have purchased homes over the last 2 years, whether you feel like they overpaid or not, they paid with, first of all, they are exceptional credit owners. They are not people that are buying interest only loans. There are very few of those loans even created today. They have to go through extensive credit background checks, and they go through underwriting several times before they're approved for that loan. They are coming in with a lot of cash, a good down payment. Not only that, the cash over asking price. This is not being held up by kooky loans and bad transactions, bad real estate transactions. A lot of these people had money to begin with. I think the thing that might cause a crash is if the jobs market goes to crap. But if you look at it right now, they increased it. Like, I think they created another 427,000 jobs. If I could be, but it was around that amount of money, around that amount of number. And they're still trucking along. This jobs market, nobody's losing everything. In the 2008 crash, people were losing their jobs. Not only were they losing their jobs, they had a really crappy loan. And that's what caused all of this nonsense. There was a lot of bad loans that were given. As far as institutional investors, they keep buying. They're still buying. They have not stopped buying because they're making a mint on rent, and they will continue to buy. The last time that this happened, the last time we had a housing crash, even the investors then saw the writing on the wall, and they were like, you know what? We could buy up these houses and turn them into rental units. Invitation homes, that's how they based their whole entire business, because they bought all these homes for cheap and turned them into rentals. And that has been their business model ever since. And all these other companies have been following it because they saw how much money they were making off of it. That's why Tricon is turning into one of the biggest investors, because Blackstone used to invest in invitation homes and saw how much money they made. And now they invest in Tricon. They dipped out of invitation homes, gave the business model to Tricon. Now Tricon's buying all along the Sun Belt and doing that same thing. They're making mint, and they're going to continue to do it.
Yeah, and we're seeing that happen here too.
Yeah.
They're just gobbling up anything that they can get their hand on. They're paying market values, and their intent is to rent it out for the next 10 years or whatever it is and make a killing. Yeah.
And a lot of this new subdivisions too throughout the Sun Belt, they're not subdivisions being built for people to purchase. They're built to rent. They're building these homes just to rent them out. It's really popular in Phoenix, and through some Texas areas as well. Is that a thing in your area?
Not really. No.
Okay. Oh, you have no land. You said that there's not anywhere to build.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You said that. Okay. I hope that answered your question there. Eddie, we need another one. Oh, if you haven't yet, there's 689 of you on the live stream today. Make sure you give us a thumbs up for Chris, because he's the first timer here.
First timer.
Yeah, let's give Chris a thumbs up. S has a question. Says, when people talk about the real estate crashing, do you think they are talking about transactions crashing, not prices, but a big slowdown, not price crash? FYI, it depends on what. I think it depends on the person. I think most people are hoping that they see a sea of homes on the market that they could choose from, anything they can choose from. That, granted, they might need a little TLC, a little lipstick on the pig, some repainting, but they're hoping to not only get a deal, but have a big choice of homes. That's what a crash would look like, in my opinion. You have tons of homes on the market, ample for you to choose from, where you can negotiate to death because they have to get rid of the house. That I just can't see that happen. What is your definition of a crash, Chris?
Well, first of all, I would I've got shoppers who have been shopping for the last 2 years that have been all saying exactly the same thing. We're going to wait for the market to pull back. We're going to wait for this to happen. We're going to wait for that to happen. And the only thing that's happened is that they've wasted 2 years of being where they want to be. So, um, if I was to define what a crash looks like, I mean, what's the difference between a correction and a crash? In my mind, and again, I used to be a stockbroker, so to me, a correction is 20% and a crash is 50%. Um, I don't think there's very, I think the odds are low that we see either of those two things. I would prefer that we see a return to normal, which is more like a buyer has a shot of actually getting the house that they want. And if there's not 100 contracts on the same home that they want to buy, and they've got some options. Um, that's not a slowdown to me. That's more just a return to normal.
I had
And
a
I'd love to
comment.
see that.
I had a comment in my comment section after my last stream that said that they had heard that home prices were going to go down 80%. And I'm like, 80%, where does that number come from? And they had said they went gone on about how much that was going to go down. But the comments after it, obviously people watched my stream and they were like, nope, that's not going to happen because of blah, blah, blah. It can't happen because of that. I was like, oh, people watch, people listen. It was awesome. So there are some markets I think that during this correction are going to be back to where they should be. Is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be 30%? I don't know. But there's some markets that I do feel like we're way overinflated, and I don't know what's going to prop them up because they have the median price home is so beyond the median price income that I don't know how it's sustainable. But time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah.
I think my biggest kind of like scratch in my head is Phoenix, Arizona makes me nervous. I always look at Las Vegas as one of those areas like we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see. And they got themselves in trouble the last time. So we'll see what happens
Yeah.
again.
Vegas
Lawnmower
was a
says,
rough.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I don't know why. I don't, that's not my town. Lawnmower says, I think the only thing that will result in an actual price reduction is a reduction in demand. Right. Right. But the thing is if there's a reduction of a demand and there still isn't enough supply, that just makes for stagnation. And that's what I think is going to happen because home builders, I'm telling you, they're like, you know what? We can't get the supplies anyways. The supplies are really, really, really high. A lot of them are just saying, nope, we're just not going to build. We don't have to. We've made a lot of money in the last couple of years. We can just hold back. Instead of making 100 homes, we'll make 40 and we know we'll sell those. What do you say, Chris?
Depends where you're at. So we've got, and again, there's no more land, so there's only a few places where that can even be built out right now. GL Homes is one of the premier builders, and they're building a new luxury community in Boca Raton. They just upped their prices on their base model home, and so I think it really just depends on where you're at and which market, and the dynamics of that particular market. But here, because there's no land, there's supply and demand.
Did you in the last crash, were you in Florida then, or were you even a real estate agent then?
I was a stockbroker then. So in the last real estate crash, I was suffering a financial meltdown of epic proportions in a different space altogether. So yeah, when like Bank of America was at 2, and GE was at whatever it was, $2-3, we were doing some. It was an interesting time, but that's actually when we made the most money because as Warren Buffett says, be be fearful when other people are greedy, and greedy when other people are fearful. And we just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Speaking of greed, there's been a lot of greed going on with this real estate market. There's some people that have been extremely greedy and gross and taking advantage of people's misfortunes. And I wouldn't mind if some of them got that what's coming to them, to be honest with you. Jason Dent said, Utah, Idaho, Austin, Texas will be the first to crash, right? I wish I had a magic ball. Like I wish I had if I was to guess, if I was to like, in my opinion, if I was to guess, I look at I don't think Utah is going to go anywhere because they have a hard time with all sorts of things. But I say Phoenix, Arizona is always one of those ones, and Las Vegas is always one of those ones. That's what I think is going to be the first ones that I'm kind of like, all right, let's see how low it goes. Because like Las Vegas and Phoenix took a massive hit in the last crash, like so bad, and they had overbuilt to, oh my gosh, there were so many homes, so many.
Yeah.
VCG Construction said with a 1999 super chat says, "This is exactly what I needed. Thanks for all the info. Smash that like button. Thank you for smashing the like button. I used to say smoosh the like button. smoosh. Thank you so much, Vince. I appreciate you." Vince runs the VCG channel. You should go check them out, Chris. They've got some good stuff over there if you're into like different kinds of tools and stuff. They always have these comparisons. It's a good channel. And they're good people over there. They're really nice.
Shout out to Vince. Smooshed.
He wrote that again. Smooshed. Eddie's going to put up another question in just a moment.
All right.
Oh, you want to put up the Tesla article? Go ahead. Go ahead, Eddie. I can hear him in the background. He's giving me something. He's going to throw up on the screen really quick. Every time I say throw up, it sounds so bad. Throw up. Well, you know what? Some of these articles with the headlines, it's like they threw in every single buzzword imaginable just to get people to click on it. It's disgusting. And they're like, that made me so angry when I saw that Daily UK article where it said we were down 31%. I'm like, where are they getting this? This is crazy. So I had to go look it up, and it wasn't even nearly true. The electric car maker has been growing fast in a few years, but Elon Musk is a chief executive, appeared to be concerned about the weakening economy. I'm going to give my opinion about Elon in a minute. Let's see. Tesla's chief executive Elon plans to cut 10% of electric car makers' salaries workforce. He told staff in an email on Friday. The jobs cut will not apply to employees who build cars or batteries or install solar panels, and the number for hourly employees will increase. Mr. Musk said in an email, a copy of which was reviewed by the New York Times, Tesla will be reducing salaried head count by 10% as we become overstaffed in many areas. Okay. Well, do you have any opinion about what Elon Musk says?
So if I'm reading this directly, he's just as a business item, you become overstaffed in a certain section of your business and you reduce it by 10%. That seems like a good business decision. I think this is like data that's misapplied to fit a narrative that somebody else wants to sell, which seems to be disingenuous when you look at what it actually says.
Elon Musk is very good at using words on his platform to make people feel and do things just at the click of a button. He can go on there and manipulate any market by saying, this is the crypto coin for me. And he has done that. He can say anything about a specific house. And sure enough, overnight, that house becomes the best house in the whole entire world that everybody's investing in. He can say he's buying a social media site, and it changes how much the stocks are worth of a social media site. He has the power of words to make people do and say whatever he wants. That's what I have to say about Elon Musk. I don't put a lot of
drop the mic.
I'm sorry. I mean, like, I know people think he's a genius, and I'm sure he's a very smart man, but he's also extremely manipulative, and that's my opinion of him. And he makes people do things that normally wouldn't do things with their money because he made a tweet. And I don't know. Well,
so I'll link this back to something that's a little bit older, where Zillow shut down their iBuying business, right? And so people took that piece of news to say that, oh my gosh, this is the end of the real estate market because they're getting out of this sector. Well, it was a non-performing business that they had that was hemorrhaging cash and never worked to begin with. How does that have anything to do with what's going on in the future? And it's the same concept with that headline. Okay, well, if I personally reduce 10% of my staff because I'm overstaffed, how is that an indictment on what the market's going to do? It's just me making a business decision.
And And if you really read it, he's getting rid of salaried employees, but hiring more hourly workers. So he's just shifting money around.
Right. Right.
So,
And so if you're going from salary to hourly workers, that could be more of a reflection on how you do business, but nonetheless.
right. And then people will take something that Elon Musk said and then turning into a newspaper headline too.
Right.
Cece Moon did say something, and I didn't get to say what she said, but I'm sure she said something about the Phoenix housing market is listening to this live stream right now with shifty eyes. I'm sorry. I just think it's overpriced. I've been to Phoenix. I've seen the last time I was in Phoenix, there was a lot of people having very creative ways to find a place to live. And to me, that is unsustainable. It makes me nervous for that town. So Pedro says, question, should we wait to buy a house in Ocala, or is it just buy at these prices? I know Ocala. Do you know that area, Chris?
A little bit, yeah. It's north of me.
What would you say to Pedro?
I would say, why are you buying the house in the first place? I would want to know way more about why you're making this decision to begin with. Because if you're buying a house because you need to buy a house, then now is a good time to buy a house. If you're buying it as an investment vehicle or as an investment decision or any other myriad of things that it could be, then maybe it does make sense for you to wait. I don't know enough about your particular circumstance to be able to really guide you in that process.
Right. And I always say it's always best to meet with a lender and talk to them about your financial situation and discuss your credit scores and find out how much payments would be for certain price points. So that way you can decide if that's something you want to do, especially if the rent is like extremely high in Ocala. And you're like, if you find out that it'd be cost you less per month to purchase a house over renting, maybe it's something you do need to consider, but definitely meet with a lender and have them go over that with you. That's what I would say. Good advice from both of us, Chris.
Yes, good job.
Good job. Yeah.
You nailed it.
Crushed it. That's what I told him. Like, there was all these buzzwords a couple of years ago, real estate agents were going around all the time. We're going to crush it. Crush it. That's so stupid. Peter said, if the purchasing power of money continues to go down with inflation and nominal prices of home stay the same, isn't the real value of the house going to go down? Chris?
If the purchasing power of money continues to go down with inflation, well, I mean, no, I don't think the real value of the house is going to go down. Define the real value of the house?
Well, he was saying because of inflation, the dollar is worth less, right? So isn't that mean that your house is worth less because of inflation? But still may cost more because of inflation. And then you're going to have to pay more in interest on your interest rate if you're going to purchase.
Right. So if the purchasing power of money continues to go down, nominal prices of the house stay the same, isn't the value of the house going to go down? Well, depends, right? So if you're locked into an interest rate and your payment is now fixed at that interest rate and inflation goes through the roof and interest rates go higher, you're hedged against inflation in one asset class in your home. And so that's a win. Now, if groceries are 10x and gas is 10x and all the other variables are 10x, you may be faced with a financial hardship in other places. But in terms of being hedged against inflation in the one controllable place that you can, that you've done.
That's why investors do it.
Right. Right.
That's why investors do it. That's why they buy real estate. They always do it.
Right.
So that was a good question, Peter. Thank you. You got us thinking. But like, unless it wouldn't mean anything unless you are having to sell. You know, if you don't have to sell and you're in your house and you have a fixed rate mortgage, then you're perfectly fine. The only time they would make a difference is if you're trying to sell.
And that's
if the prices go down, you know.
Right. And so so my sister just bought a house and I represented her and she ended up buying, she's going to hate me for telling the story, but I'm sure she won't watch this to begin with. But she hates anything that I'm watching. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that. But anyway, but she was under contract and ended up closing at the highest sale price in our community. And this was a couple months ago. And I asked her, I said, okay, if the market, you bought this house for all the reasons that I know you bought the house, right? You're going to be here for the next 10 years. You've got a baby who's less than a year old. You got another one on the way, or maybe my timeline's a little bit off, but you bought here for a reason, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you are comfortable with your financial situation, and you've checked all the boxes, and everything makes sense. So let's just pretend you also it appraised 100K over where she ended up being buying the house,
Purchasing. Mm-hmm.
purchasing, right? But let's just pretend that the market goes to zero tomorrow, which is impossible. But let's just pretend that every house is worth zero the next day. You weren't selling the next day anyway, were you? Well, no, you're going to be here for the next 10 or 15 years, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then who cares what the market does? You made a great decision for yourself and for your family, and you're going to live in the house. So, yeah, I went off on a tangent there. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, but it will bring me to a point though, because everybody says, how do I know if if you made a good purchase how do I know if I made a good purchase or a bad purchase? I said, about 10 years, it all balances out. It doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, if you keep a property for 10 years, it all works out. It all works out. Because before the height of the last market during the crash, if you had bought a house 10 years before the crash, it wouldn't have mattered because you'd still be up on the upside,
Right.
10 years balances everything out.
Yes. I agree.
Dee Dee has a question. Severely overpriced in the New Jersey area, overrun with people trying to get out of New York City. Prices still up 100 to 150K higher than should be. Multiple offers, 20 plus cash buyers, etc. Been priced out since 2020. And that's true of a lot of areas. Like Austin isn't seeing as many offers as they once did, but they're still getting multiple offers on properties, especially in the lower end price points. They're still getting tons and tons. And that's going to be true for a lot more areas. But there's going to be areas that are like, for instance, I live outside of Baton Rouge. Some of the houses that sold for way too much. We're going to have a correction. There's going to be a correction. There's going to be a few people that overpaid for their house. Are they going to suffer terrible consequences? Only if they sell in the next 3 to 4 years, but most of them bought with money over and had 20% down, and then they're going to be fine. They're not going to be foreclosed on unless they lose their job. So, and we're not going to be doing short sales like we did years ago. When this all started, though, when the 2020 market started going crazy, I thought for sure I'm going to have to brush up my short sale skills again, because I was like, who's the heck's going to buy a house in this market with a bunch of sick people? Yuck! No one's going to want to do that, and I was wrong. I was wrong.
I think everybody was saying, let's dust off our short sale kit.
I did. I was really looking that crap up. I was like, I remember how who was the contacts? I'm like emailing. All right, Eddie had another question that popped up while I was flapping my lips. BD Douglas says, is there a market for acreage, 10 acres with a small 850 square foot new home on it, priced around 300,000? That is location. Where is it located at? Personally, I would love 10 acres with an 850 square foot home on it. And then I put a couple more tiny homes on it, maybe a little farm, get a little pigs. I'd be all over it. But that would depend on where it is. If it was in the middle of the desert near Phoenix, Arizona, absolutely not. If it was in the swamp land of Louisiana, which there's many places, probably not. But if it was in Colorado, hook a sister up. What do you say?
If you could find that in Palm Beach County, line me up for 10 of them.
You sign you up, right?
Yeah.
Maria D with a $10 super chat says, please comment on how the high number of cash buyers is affecting this market. I just sold a small 3.2 for triple what I paid for it with 3 cash offers. What do you have to say about this, Chris?
How the number of cash buyers is affecting the market? It's not impacting the market from my perspective at all.
Well, it is in a way. If you're trying to get a loan right? And you're competing with cash buyers. This has been a real tough one for a lot of people that have to have a loan. Because if a seller gets an offer, and let's just say it's $375,000, right? And one of them is cash and one of them is a loan, most likely that seller is going to take the cash offer because they don't have to wait for approval or that many days. They're going to take the cash offer over the loan. And so it has affected. Yeah. So there definitely does affect people that have a home loan 100%. And it really sucked for them. A lot of people that it really stunk, especially like the people that were offering the same amount of money and they didn't have like the 30 or 40% and they had like an FHA loan. Well, the sellers were going to take the ones that had the 30% that they're putting down or the 20% because they were a stronger buyer in their opinion. So they accepted those offers over the ones that were, like an FHA, like 5% or 10% down.
So let me jump in here. So there are a lot of things that I've seen over the last year that have been crazy in regards to positioning buyers to look a certain way on paper when representing them in this
Correct.
crazy competitive market, right? So
Correct.
to your point, there are lots of things and lots of games that we're guilty of playing to position them in a way, not even guilty, but giving them a competitive advantage to get what they want in this market. But you've got to know your customer. You've got to have a very good relationship with the lender. You've got to know what your limitations are and how you can protect them within the deadlines that exist within the contract. So you could waive appraisal and make it look like a cash buy. You could do lots of different things to get what you want. But at the end of the day, you'd have to so I don't know if I sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. There's lots of games that I could play for a buyer who is using a loan to make them look like a cash buyer or make them look stronger than they actually are on paper.
Right. Well, you're just talking about crafting an offer in a way that represents the buyer in a good and puts them in a good position. Trevor Smith talked about these home loans that looked like they were cash offers, but you're still getting a loan. He has this plan from his company that shows. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's lots of companies that are doing this that they will say it looks like cash. We're going to close it on this time. It's a cash deal, but you're still getting a loan. Right? Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So the question was, do I see cash deals changing?
How are cash offers affecting buyers?
How are cash offers affecting buyers? Okay. Well, if you're working with the right people, I don't know. I don't know that it matters.
It can. It just depends. It just depends. As long as you got the good real estate agent that is crafting that offer correctly, you'll be fine.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Way to save me.
Yeah. Real estate advisor, Sir Ashley, with the $3 super sticker. I love Sir Ashley. If you haven't checked out his channel, Chris.
I've seen his channel. He's great.
Oh, good. He is awesome. I need to have him on here again. Hit me up, Sir Ashley. We're going to do this again because I love having you on. You're fun.
Sir Ashley.
All right.
From now on, I'm Sir Chris. I just got to jump in, get in.
That is his official name. That is on his birth certificate. It is Sir Ashley. Yes, that's how bad rear end he is, man. That is it. He was knighted the minute he was born. Charles says, question: there will not be a housing price crash. Will the buyer bidding dogfight and feeding frenzy start to reverse? Yes. There won't be a price crash. There will not be 40 or 80% market down of prices unless we have some other economic turn that causes that. But as the way things are looking as right at this moment in June 5th of 2022, there's nothing in the horizon currently that's going to make the housing market numbers go tank into the toilet. But will the slowing down? Yes. Will we get to more reasonable, more level-headed housing market? I 100% think so. We're going to see stagnation of home prices for quite some time. That's my prediction. What do you say, my friend Chris?
I agree with you. No more dogfights. No more
No, we're
buyer
not.
bidding wars.
I hated him. I freaking
Yeah.
hated him. It was the worst anxiety attack. And some of these selling agents were just freaking awful. They wouldn't even tell you if they even saw it. So then I was like begging for them to like give me the paperwork back to show me that they actually like reviewed it.
Yeah.
There at the beginning there, boy, it was terrible. But they've gotten much better about it. But some of those agents, man. Do you know the worst thing about real estate for me? The agents.
There you go.
Some of the agents will make you want to pull your teeth out. Don't forget to hit the like button. Eddie, we got another question to throw up on the screen. Blech, throw up on the screen. I hope that didn't offend anybody. I'm sorry. I should have done a trigger warning. Some people hear that noise and they instantly gag. Oh, look, I just dropped like 30 people watching from doing that. Whoopsie. Okay, Eddie's trying to find it. He said, "Go ahead and keep talking." He's going to put it. Well, he'll put it up on the screen when he's trying to find this specific question. He's trying to search for. It's hard for him, I have to tell you. I appreciate the time it takes for him because he's trying to monitor the chat on one side and he's trying to pull up the articles on the other. And then what happens is the as people are talking, it will jump up the screen. So he can't find where he was at. So there's a certain question he really does want to add to the conversation.
And that's why he's the best producer out there.
Yeah. And I do have some moderators in here. If anybody wants to sign up for that job, it's a totally thankless, payless job. But if you would like to be a moderator and you've been on the stream several times, let me know in my email section. And if you need a real estate referral, while Eddie's getting that, thank you to the moderators. If you do need a real estate referral, just let me know by visiting. Where are you going? Oh, your dog.
He wants to be a moderator. Volunteer moderator.
If you go to my website at KristinaSmallhorn.com and fill out the referral form, I will get in contact with you and I will definitely find you a good real estate agent. I'm connected with thousands, by the way. I'm in Indianapolis. My sister was born there. The prices are not going up, but they are not coming down either. Stagnation. That's what I'm talking about. They're not going anywhere. They're just kind of like, they're kind of in like limbo. But I bet you that you could probably negotiate with sellers a lot more if they're not like the prices are just kind of like sitting there and the houses are sitting there. I know they're going to be able to negotiate with sellers and some of them will flat out panic. So like if you're in a market that's doing that, like go low, see what happens, get yourself a deal. If you're in that market, like see what happens. The worst they can say is no. You can always come back. I mean, I hate when I always liked when my buyers got a really good deal. And I hated that people were losing their homes. But when they were like foreclosed properties and you're dealing with the bank, I was like, let's go in as low as we can go. Let's see what happens. Like the worst they could say is no, they don't have any offers on it anyways. And some people got some really good deals during that time. The banks have no feelings, so it doesn't matter. Question from they are from the Minneapolis areas. Rents are going up 20% since December 2021 for single family and condos. When will the rent growth, when will it stop? Recession will correct the rent growth? Will recession? No. I can honestly tell you that I have never seen rent prices increase at this level ever in my life. In all the years I have, like, I don't follow rent that much, but I rented homes many times. I've been a landlord, and the increase in rent prices have never been the way they are now. I just don't know what the answer is to this. I'm just not a rental agent, so I couldn't give you a good answer on this. What would you be your answer, Chris? Because I'm not going to even try to.
Yeah, I mean, when will the rent growth stop? No time soon.
I just don't know.
Unfortunately,
I wish.
I don't know when, but I know it's no time soon.
Like it was the rent increased in Austin, Texas, over 35%, 40% in some areas. People got kicked out of their houses just to rent them out to other people. And I think it's disgusting. There just isn't enough houses on the market. There isn't enough houses to rent or rentals available. I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing. And I've been saying this for like the last 3 years. The housing market has been the weirdest I have ever seen it, ever. And it was pretty weird during 2008. But we got a pretty good grasp on it, what was going on pretty quickly as it started tumbling down. This increase is like nothing I've ever seen. And I just don't know what's going to pull it down.
Yeah.
Eddie's going to pull up another question while we're waiting. I know it's been just about an hour. Are you still good on time, Chris?
Got a few more minutes.
Okay. Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast.
Okay. Because I don't want to irritate you. I don't want to annoy you.
No. This is good stuff.
David Dawes says, question, is it better to sell my house, pay off my mortgage, and buy a cheaper one cash with the equity? What would you say, Chris? Is it better to sell my house, pay off my mortgage, and buy a cheaper one for cash with all my equity?
Well, if that was a solution here, I'm sure lots of sellers would love to do that, but that doesn't exist for a similar product. So it really, I guess, depends on your particular circumstance, David, as to what's best for you. But here in this market, I mean, there's very few cheaper homes that would present that opportunity at a lower rate or anything. I mean, the metrics are just all skewed. I'd end up having to move to someplace I don't want to be.
Right. But for instance, if you lived in an area like Baton Rouge, you could and you lived by LSU and you had a house that was like 650,000, right? You could take that and let's just say that equity from that 650,000, it left you with 450,000 and you could live out in my area and buy yourself a pretty nice house for that amount of money. That would have to do with your financial plan and what you plan on doing in the future. I mean, do you need to downsize? Is it something you financially need to do? What else are you doing with that money? If it was me and I had that much cash, I would take some of the equity and try to buy some properties that I could use for rentals. So I had income producing properties. That's why I always say, if you have a HELOC and you need to buy a house really quick, get yourself a HELOC to buy a house really quick and then get yourself a loan, then pay yourself back from your HELOC. I like income producing properties. I mean, I know it's a nice feeling to have a house that's completely paid off, but if you want to continue to have money coming into your home for a lifetime, own rentals.
Yeah. So it's always what's best for you.
Right. Exactly. What is your financial plan? That's why I always say talk to a financial advisor because they can give you some good perspective on what you have and what you don't have and what you need for your future. Because what you think you need for your future is probably double than what your immediate thought process is. I remember when I used to think, I'm like, if I just had $1 million, I would be so wealthy. And $1 million, don't get me wrong, is a lot of money, but it ain't going to last you a lifetime unless you know how to invest it correctly. I mean,
True.
it isn't what it used to be. I remember when $100,000 income was like the pinnacle. You have made it if you are making $100,000 a year. And now with the way inflation is going and everything, that's pretty much you're making it. But you're not on the top anymore. You're still having to all right, what's on that budget? We may want to take that off, especially if you have a family of 4. It's hard to live on $100,000 with a family of 4. I don't know how people do it. It's hard.
No. What was the Austin Powers movie? $1 million.
It's like a billion's more than a million. He was like, oh, okay. Jerry Prusso says, a question, Kristina, why do you not like agents? Are they being unethical or what? Some people, I'm not gonna lie, some people like to make themselves feel more important and that they're in control. It doesn't matter if they're a real estate agent or not, but there's some people that they know they have this golden opportunity with this house and they have all these offers in front of them. So they could treat you like total dog crap because they're extremely busy. So they won't answer their phone. They'll only answer text messages. You call them and then as you're calling and they're texting you back, I only responded text. And you're like, come on, what? I just need to know how many offers you have on your table, Like nobody wants to talk. It's some agents just make your life miserable because they're a-holes. Honestly. What do you say?
Yeah, no, you summed it up pretty well. There are some really great agents that are out there, and they earn their reputation of being great agents, and then you can't wait to do deals with them. And you're always so excited when you have one of those agents, and then
I
there's
love it.
the
Makes it
opposite
so
of
much
that.
easier.
Yeah, or you're dealing with someone who does not have that great reputation, and then you go out of your way to try to avoid working with them as much as humanly possible. Um, so
There was one dude for my first real estate transaction in Louisiana, and to this day, I still think he is the biggest jerk I've ever met. I'm biting my tongue. But, to this day, I cannot stand that dude. And he, like everybody I talk to him, they're like, they either love them because they're flirting with him, or they absolutely loathe him like I do. Like there's just some people that are just not nice, good people, and they're doing it to be in control and not good people. Um, so question, do you believe there will be a time when first-time home buyers will be able to afford a home? This is something I talk about my channel all the time. I believe we are in the worst affordability crisis, and I cannot see it getting any better. Because if we have stagnation in home prices where they're at right now, most first-time home buyers can't afford a home in their area because it's beyond the median income. And we have a stagnation in salary. A lot of employers are not giving that much more on people's salaries. We're going to have more institutional investors buying up rental properties. I think they're the ultimate goal, and I call me a conspiracy theorist, put on my tinfoil hat. I think the ultimate goal is to turn as many young people as possible into renters and never to own a home. So, yeah, I don't know if there will be a time. I think that will depend on the area that you live. But in some of these big cities, I don't think, unless you have a really good job and a lot of good income coming in, it's going to be much more difficult for first time buyers to buy a home. What is your opinion, Chris?
yeah, I agree with you. It's funny. So there are some newer communities that are being. I talked about them earlier, where they talk about them being the more affordable first-time home buyer section of the neighborhood, but the
Hmm.
neighborhood's like a $2 million neighborhood basis point. And like, okay, this is a first-time home buyer who makes $1 million a year. That's a small section of the market, which is
Very
great,
small.
but that is an anomaly. That is not most places or most people.
Not the most first time home buyers aren't buying $1 million property. That's
Right. Yeah.
unless you live in California. I mean, most like there isn't much that isn't under a million.
Yeah.
Um, Jamie Powell says, "Hi, my husband and I are in the Army. Thank you for your service. We moved every 3 years. How hard would it be to get a license as a realtor in different states? Any advice for someone who wants to be a realtor?" Okay. So, to be a real estate agent in each state, you're going to have to take their state license. You have a national license that you can take as a real estate agent. Of course, that covers most 50 states, all 50, and some territories of the United States. But you're going to have to get licensed in each and every state. Now, it's going to be much more difficult to service clients correctly to have licensures in each area. I personally don't know how you could service them correctly when they ask you things like, where's the local schools in comparison to the gym that they work out in. Those little things make a difference to a home buyer. So I'm not sure what kind of real estate agent you're going to be, but if you're in the residential sales, just know that if you spread yourself too thin, you may not give the best service in the whole entire world. What do you say, Chris?
No, I agree with you. That's being licensed in multiple states is going to be challenging for you to do business the right way locally. You won't know what
Now, if
you're talking about. I mean, it's
now if you're
impossible to know.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm
Yeah.
a jerk.
It's
I,
okay.
now, but if you're like just doing like the marketing side where you're bringing in leads for another team member that's in that specific market that knows that area very well, that's something completely different. And I can understand why you'd want to be licensed in those areas so that way you could get a piece of the pie. But if you're a referral agent, you only need to have a license in one state. You don't need them in all 3 states, or how many states you want to get licensed in, unless you plan on selling under your name alone. Next question. Jennifer Stockman says, question, in my area, it still has a shortage of houses. Prices are still very high. Selling my parents' big house, 9,000 square feet. Holy cow, that's a lot of vacuuming. But it'll be priced around what, a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot range. Do you think that's a bad idea? It depends on your market. Like if you had a 9,000 square foot house in my area, there's no way you're going to be able to sell it like you would a 9,000. You couldn't get price per square foot like you think you would. So yeah, they would probably be around that 4,000, 5,000 square foot mark. But I would really talk to a real estate agent about this and what they think, and maybe even get a pre-appraisal done on your home to know the exact value of it before you decide to put it on the market. Like the appraisal will cost you $500, but at least you know your price where you should be. That's my opinion.
And also, you can't underprice a home, especially when you mentioned that you're in an area where the prices are still high and there's a shortage of houses. So if you price it the right way and underprice it, you will definitely have multiple offers that bid the price higher. So yes, you want to know what a bank will lend at. So an appraisal is a great idea. You also want to speak to a real estate professional to understand what the comps are. But if you still have those market dynamics, then by underpricing it intentionally, you're going to create a market within a market, which will bid the price higher, and ultimately you'll get the result that you want.
9,000 square feet, though. That is so much to clean.
That's a lot.
So much to clean. I would love to see the inside of that house. I love big houses. Around here, though, it's so weird because like the bigger the house, it's just more of the same, but everything looks the same. The cabinetry, the crown molding, the whole 9 yards are just more rooms, like you get to a certain price point and it's like, yeah, but is this worth it? It's still like, it has all the same things that the other littler houses do. It's just more rooms. I don't know. I guess if you had like a big family, like, that'd be awesome because everybody get their own room. Man, Lawnmower, what a great moderator. He's put up your channel. He's put up Sir Ashley's channel. Wow, that's awesome.
Thank
you, Lawnmower. David Das says, question, between Boca Raton and West Palm Beach, Florida versus Austin, Texas, looking into the future, where would you recommend to invest? This is you, Chris. This is all you.
That's a great question. All right. So between Boca and West Palm Beach, Florida versus Austin, Texas, I don't have any familiarity with Austin, Texas on a hyper local level. So I'm not a good reference point in terms of what the Austin market looks like. In Boca Raton, you're not going to go wrong at all. As you get into sections that are in West Palm and further up north, it gets a little bit sketchy, but there are some great investments that you can find. So I would say South Palm Beach County is where you should be.
And if you do need
it, having no clue about Texas.
But Austin, Texas, if you do need to find an agent out in Austin, Texas, Jeremy Knight with the Knight Group, he has a YouTube channel, has a plethora of information about Austin, Texas. The thing is there's a pros and cons in living in Austin, and so a lot of things have changed. They've had some tax and property tax increases that are going to affect a lot of people. It'll be interesting what happens to Austin. That's one I'm going to keep my eye on. I'll hold back my opinion on what I think is going to happen until I see probably about 6 more months from now. I'll give you my 2 cents. But it's an interesting market, how much it's gone up. I hope it doesn't go in the toilet, but it has gone up way too much. The rentals there are just ridiculous. Serenity Cow says, hypothetically, what happens to the market if the interest rates rise to 14% like they did in the 70s and 80s? Paul Volcker rates. What does your crystal ball say? Less people are going to be moving.
And interest rates can go higher than that. I mean, my parents' first mortgage was higher than that. back in the early 70s. People are still going to buy. Real estate will trade. People will buy and sell homes because they need to buy and sell homes, and that will happen irrespective of what the interest rate is, what the market dynamics are. Period. It's always a good market for someone. So it will always trade. But I don't have any crystal ball as to what those dynamics are going to look like. I would assume there's going to be less people moving.
Right. Well, like if you like people won't sell if they don't have to, because like where are they going to go? Right. Who wants to, if you have a sitting in a house that you got an interest rate at 2.8% and now interest rates are 14.9%, let's just say, like
Right.
all of a sudden driving another 45 minutes to work doesn't sound so bad. I'll just stay in my house with that cheap payment and I'll just going to stick it out here instead of moving closer to my job. I still say it's going to cause stagnation because builders are not going to want to build as many homes either because they're going to think there's not that many people wanting to buy. So it's just going to cause a flat market. I think stagnation. I think we're going to see stagnation for at least 3 years. But I mean, that's what I'm saying today. That information could change next week. Like some people will hold my feet to the fire because I said something. And I'm like, well, the market changed. So of course my opinion changes. Jenny Lynn says, do you know or recommend any experts in Spokane, Washington market? Love you're following and love you're following, watching your channel. Yes, Jenny, I have somebody. Sterling is his name. I will just email, look, go to my website, go to KristinaSmallhorn.com and then click on contact me or one of those buttons right there and fill out the referral form. And then I'll get in contact with you and tell you exactly who you need to get in touch with. There's a few people I have out in Washington that run a couple different markets. So yeah, Eddie has it up right now. You just click on one of those pink buttons and it will show you the referral form book here. Oh, look, he's going to click on it. He's so good. This is a great place to end. I know, Chris, you have to get going, and I appreciate your time today. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with before you go on your merry way for the week?
Well, thank you for having me on. I truly appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. If there's anything I can do to help serve or support anybody out there in the South Florida region, then please reach out. And really, that's it. This has been a blast. Thank you.
Chris has a YouTube channel as well. He's just getting it off the ground. This thing's gonna be blowing up anytime now. Yep, he's in with the YouTube groups now, and so he's gonna be. Make sure
been a huge inspiration to me.
Thank you. And I always like helping you out and helping other people out. So I appreciate you coming on the show today and spending your afternoon with us. And I want to thank the 777 people that have showed up to this live stream and spent the last hour and 16 minutes with us. Wow, that's a heck of a good number of people that came in. Make sure you hit that like button, and I appreciate everybody else. And after it's published, go ahead and share the stream out with other people so that way they can get some good real estate information out there. Because I know the headlines can be super scary. And a lot of times you're thinking, oh my gosh, the real estate market is falling apart. But things may not be what they seem to be. So the best way to know is to actually contact your local real estate agent and ask them what is going on. So don't take the headlines as face value. Just ask your local real estate agent. And if you don't believe them, ask somebody else. Don't just take one person's advice. Don't just take my advice. Don't just take Chris's advice. Go seek out other people that have an opinion. So thank you, moderators. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, audience. I want to wish everybody a super mega awesome week. And I hope you guys, hope to see you guys here next week. Bye-bye. Eddie, can you give us some music today? We can dance out. Yeah. People say give it. Oh, look, the dog. My dog didn't even come in here today. Is it a doodle?
Yeah.